right, as we finish up chapter 8 here, we are going to solve systems of nonlinear equations. So instead of lines crossing each other, we're going to have all sorts of shapes crossing one another. So we're just going to jump right into it. And these are all going to be 2 by 2 systems, meaning we're not going to have 3 unknowns. So here we have a circle, actually with a radius of 2, centered at the origin. Here we have a straight line, which I rewrote into slope-intercept form, y equals 2x plus 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take y here, what it's equal to, and substitute it into there. So I'm going to have x squared plus y squared, there's y, equals 4. I'm going to FOIL that out and combine up my like terms to here. Now I have an equation to solve. I'm going to factor out an x, and now set each piece equal to 0. X equals 0 here. Here I subtract the 8 divided by 5. I get that x is negative 8/5. So we'll start when x equals 0. What's y going to be? Well, I'll just plug it into my linear equation here. So 0 plus 2 is 2. So one of the points that it's going to go through is the point 0, 2. I'm going to take negative 8/5 now. That was my other solution. Plug it back into x here. Got to get a common denominator. And I end up with negative 6/5. So these two, this circle and this line are going to cross at the point 0, 2, which is up here. You can see a circle. And down here in the third quadrant, we have negative 8/5, negative 6/5 is where that is. Next up, here we have a circle and a hyperbola. And I'm going to notice that when I add the two equations together, the y squareds are going to disappear. And I just end up with x squared by itself. So x is going to be plus or minus root 6. So when I plug in root 6 into x, root 6 squared is just 6. Subtract it over. This means y is plus or minus 1. So at positive root 6, we have two solutions now. And at negative root 6, when we plug it in, we're going to end up with the same two y values. And you can see right here, we have a circle with a hyperbola, and you can see here's the same and here's the same. Next up, here we have a circle with a parabola, and I went ahead and solved for x squared and then plugged that in there. So there's my y plus 9, pardon me. I rewrote it and subtracted the 1 over. And this one doesn't factor, so I use the quadratic formula, pardon me, and I end up with a negative under the radical. What that's telling me is that this parabola is not intersecting with this circle. So they're missing each other altogether. There's no solution in this case, no real solutions. And lastly, here we have a straight line, and here we have a circle that's not centered at the origin. It's been moved around. But I'm going to notice I can solve for x here and replace it here and here. And you can see I replaced that with the x squared. And here's the minus. Be careful for the minus minus. It's easy to miss that. You get a minus here and then minuses in there. Distribute, FOIL in this case, combine like terms, and add the 3 to the other side. And you end up with a quadratic equation. This one does happen to factor very nicely to get my two y values. And to figure out what x is, I'm going to plug those in. So when y equals negative 2, plug that in, I get x equals negative 1. When y equals negative 5/2, plugging that in, getting a common denominator, of course, I get negative 1/2. So I have two solutions in this case.